Welcome to Behind the Story, where we discover the story behind your favourite stories. My name is Lisa Renee. I'm a contemporary rom-com author.
And I'm Naomi Craig. I write biblical novels. I had a great chance to finally meet Natasha Woodcraft from over at Biblical Fiction Aficionados. We had a great chat talking about her books. But before we get into the interview, what are you up to, Lisa?
Well, I've just finished the Kickstarter and now I'm fulfilling the pledges, which means sending out the ebooks of the new novella, Book Boyfriends and Lattes, and I have a box set collection, which is just exclusive to Kickstarter, and some paperbacks and hardbacks. So that was a lot of fun. And so just wrapping that up and then going to be working on the next project. What about you, Naomi? It's a special day for you.
Yep, today, August 15th, is my launch for Shira's Legacy. It's been a long time coming. I'm really excited to share this book with the world. And I've got a fantastic launch team. There's still a chance that you can get at least the Kindle will still be on pre-order price until Sunday. I've got a book box for US addresses that I'm sharing that's got some pretty epic things, signed paperback of Shira's Legacy, as well as a signed paperback of Connie Lynn Cosette's Voices, or not signed, but it is a paperback of Connie Lynn Cosette's Voice of the Ancient, which also releases today, and lots of other fun things. So we'll have all those linked in the show notes, and be sure that you enter in to this book box or the chance to win one of 3 ebooks, and that's open internationally.
So in a snapshot, if you could just do like a paragraph of what your story is about, maybe 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Snapshot, if anyone's just coming in first time and hasn't heard about your journey with this story, what's it about? Who's Shira?
Yeah. Shira's Legacy is found in 1 Chronicles 7. There's only 5 verses tucked away inside a genealogy, but we learn that Shira is Joseph's granddaughter. We learn that her brothers get themselves killed by cattle rustling. We learn that due to that, her dad, Ephraim, is in such heavy grief that he goes into mourning for a long time and then has a late in life baby. And we also learned that Shira built 3 cities. So 2 of those are still standing to this day. So it's quite the adventure that her family's been on. And she's kind of trying to establish her own place in this world, but then has to learn, of course, to trust others and let others contribute as well. So
what I love about your story also is the male main character that is beside her throughout the story. Can you tell me just quickly a little bit about him?
Yeah, so Latif is her charioteer, and he's just a faithful servant to the family and has been for a long time. And she doesn't realize at first that she likes him, but then he calls her out on her flaws, and he is gentle with her, and he appreciates her as an architect and as a woman. So then she's like, ooh, I like this guy. So I guess you could call it like a forbidden romance, because he is her charioteer and she is the granddaughter of the vizier. So we get a little bit of that in there, and there's a little bit of a suspense element. Her build keeps getting sabotaged, and then of course she has to find what her true legacy is. Is it the buildings, or is it what God would have her to pass on to generations after her? So
can I ask you that character with him, because when I was reading it, I got to read it a long time ago when you're first developing the story. I picked up, because I'm a support worker and I work with people on the spectrum, and he's sees things black and white. He's very clued on and very hardworking and all that kind of stuff, but he sees things very much black and white. When you were developing his character, what were you thinking about that with his personality? How did you come up with that?
He was simple. Obviously they didn't diagnose back then for on the spectrum, but he did just have a very black and white, it's either true or it's not true, and he was just held very, very closely to that. And of course people do mock him and make fun of him because he may be not as quick mentally as they are in some areas, but he has his own gifts and his own abilities. I love how I see them, because she's a big dreamer. She's got like these big plans and this big way of how to enforce this. And we need that. Like, I need that, because hey, I see your dream. Let me help you get there. I'm the support person. So it's not bad to not have big dreams, but it's good to have them. Like, God's gifted us in so many different ways. So Latif he just calls her out when she's being a brat. And but then he's also quick to forgive too. He's quick to make things right again. So he's got a great character. And I didn't have anyone specific in mind when I was doing that. I wanted to honor that, because there's such beautiful contributions to society too, is the people who do just get in and help support the dreamers. It takes all of us.
Yeah, definitely. And to build that many cities, you need some people to support the vision and just get onto it. So
Right.
I love it. I love the development of the characters and understanding and learning about each other, appreciating each other's differences, and obviously there's lots of different characters in the book. So check that out. Get into the giveaway. So we'll have the links in the show notes. And Naomi, would you like to bring on our guest today?
Yeah, absolutely. Be sure that you are subscribed to Behind the Story, so you always hear about our latest guests, as well as we always have a giveaway included, usually have a giveaway included. So lots of good bookish things here. And it's my pleasure to introduce Natasha Woodcraft. She has studied theology with the desire to understand God and the Bible better, and to be able to communicate truths in ordinary language to God's people. Fast forward several years, and now she's writing biblical novels to do just that. Natasha, welcome to Behind the Story.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
For those who aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about you and what you write.
Okay, so I'm Natasha Woodcraft, and I live in the UK, as you can tell from my strange accent, and I have a husband and I have 4 boys. The eldest one is just hitting teenage years now, so our house is a bundle of laughs now.
Your food bill will probably go up real high.
Yeah, and then I write Bible-based stories, and I also write songs, and I blog about those sometimes, so
yeah, that's a real neat combination. I love seeing all those pop up online with biblical fiction aficionados on your site. So your series, The Wander Scorned and Reborn, is the story of the first family. It's a tale of love and hate, faith and doubt, obscured by centuries of rumor. Few know the truth, yet now they shall hear it from the lips of the one who lived it, the man who became the wanderer. A story as you have never heard it before. The Wanderer series presents the ancient tale of Cain and Abel from Genesis 4, reimagined in gripping new fiction. So what is the story behind your series, The Wanderer?
Well, I used to read a lot, and then basically became sort of in this 11-year childhood. I read through a whole series in like a couple of months, and I just started to hear this kind of still sort of voice, just kind of thinking, oh, is this something that I could be doing, that I should be doing? And I kind of prayed about it, forgot about it for a while, and then about 6 months later, just woke up one morning, was like, oh, I know what I've got to write, and sat down and started writing. So it was all kind of a bit out of the blue, but yeah, it was really exciting. Once I started, I didn't stop, but I could never have imagined that 2.5 years later I'd be sitting here chatting to you like this. So it's really exciting.
I love it. Well, I'm kind of late to the party, but I just read Wander Scorned on vacation. I really enjoyed it. It was beautifully written. So well done on that. Congratulations. So introduce us to, now you're going to have to say the Hebrew names, Cain and Abel.
Yeah. So Cain, I kind of pronounce it just like Cain, just kind of with a little bit of a Y in it.
Okay.
And Awan, you can pronounce Awan or Avan. It should probably be Avan, but
So what are their
What?
strengths? What are their strengths and weaknesses?
So Cain starts off pretty well. So he starts off, he's kind of a sweet kid. He loves his parents. He's not perfect. He has kind of this thing where he really wants to impress his Abba all the time. I mean, how many boys have that? And yeah, but he's really smart. He's got like ingenuity. He likes to figure things out and discover new ways of doing things. And really with Cain, what I was really concerned to convey, the whole idea of the book, was his kind of gradual slide into something. So if you know the tale of Cain and Abel, you know what happens. And that's always a tricky thing to write a book when everyone knows
Spoiler
what
alert.
happens. I'm sure you've been there too. So you kind of know what happens, but really like a lot of ancient literature has demonized him. And I think the problem with like giving him horns or great big marks or kind of saying he's the product of the devil and all those kind of things is it kind of distances him from being human. And then we can kind of look at him and go, that could never be me.
Yeah.
And the idea of the story was to humanize him again and to show actually a real person and to show how he could gradually change. And so that actually in my heart, I start questioning, oh, wow, oh gosh, that could be me.
Right.
And that's a really scary thing. So yeah, kind of that was the reason for writing the books. I really wanted to challenge people to consider their own hearts so that actually it drives us to fall on our knees before Jesus's cross and go, I'm a sinner, I need you. And yeah, that's kind of what was in my heart. So yeah, so Cain starts off pretty good and then it kind of goes down, but it's this kind of shadow. They live in the shadow of the fall. And I had to consider what would it have been like post Eden, and what would Adam and Eve, Hava, have lived with post Eden. And I kind of likened it a little bit in my mind to having lost a child. It's something that is poignant and that you never get over, but it's a shadow of grief that lives with you your whole life. And it was that shadow of grief, losing that relationship with Yahweh Elohim, not being able to walk with him again. And Cain grows up in that. He grows up in that shadow. And so what would that have been like? What would that have felt like? How did that affect his story? How did it affect the whole family dynamic? Yeah, but Arwan, or Arvan, she also grew up in that shadow. So she is Abel Havel's twin. So I give them a really, really close bond. And that's kind of, there's a reason for that. And so she grows up also in that, but quite different because she's not born until Cain is 18. And she's really sweet. She's a gentle character, but she's a songwriter too. So I write songs into the book through her. And she kind of, yeah, she has her own insecurities and fears. And the second book, The Wanderer Reborn, is her story, and it considers what happened afterwards. So
Excellent.
that was long-winded, but
no,
anyway.
that's good, because you know what, I agree with what you did with Cain, because it really identified some of my heart, you know, like, ooh, I don't like myself in this picture right now. So I guess congratulations for making me uncomfortable.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I know, yeah, but it's kind of encouraging when you get feedback back and reviews back, and people have seen that in the story and like, oh yeah, okay, it worked. But it kind of also it feels really mean.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what I think the Lord's using that through you, through your writing to do that. And I think that there's one of the reviews on Amazon kind of highlights that too, in a different aspect. It's Jean says, I love coming face to face with the possible that is not evident in scripture. And I really feel that is the mark of biblical novels, historical fiction, biblical fiction, whatever you want to call it, because it is taking that itty bitty piece that we know Cain's a murderer. Am I my brother's keeper? Like, we know that piece, but then it's also bringing it into giving us a little bit of culture, giving us a why they made this decision. But it's also pointing us to back to the Bible and to the Lord as evaluating ourselves. So what is how do you, when you read something like that, how do you feel? Do you feel like Jean got the idea of the book here?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, I think, like taking a character that is so famous is kind of dangerous. It's kind of easier to do a lesser known story, but it's really exciting that actually you can create a whole world because we know so little about what it was like. This one chapter in the Bible, and yeah, to see that that their imagination is sparked, and that makes them want to go back to scripture. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Because like I say, we just want people running to Jesus. That's the whole reason for what we're doing.
Right.
And it can be difficult to do that through Old Testament stories sometimes. I know you've written Old Testament as well, so but the thing is, it's the same God. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if we don't see Jesus running through all of scripture, then we have a problem. So
yeah. we have another book for you to read. It's called the Bible.
Exactly.
Well, and I think it's a well-known story, yes, but there really is not much about him. Like there's a whole lot between when Adam and Eve got kicked out versus, okay, we're starting a family. Like how would they decide what, how would they know how to do things in life? Like,
but that's the beauty of doing biblical fiction, isn't it?
We can
fill in those details. We can say, look, it's just our imagination. This isn't necessarily what happened, but this is what might have happened. And you take it to God. You take it to God. You ask him what you think about it.
Yeah. Let's make ourselves sheep herders and find a herd of sheep. Like, I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So if you were watching today, I'd love for you to comment. Tell us one thing that you think would be challenging about being the first family. Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to see your feed in on that. So, all right. So Natasha, you wrote The Wanderer Scorned and The Wanderer Reborn as two halves to a whole, I think. So what led you to this decision?
Yeah, so when I woke up with that original idea, it was just to do Cain's story as I've explained it. But about halfway through writing Cain's story, I realized it wasn't going to be finished. And I think it's that I didn't want to end on a note of despair, right? Because it ends really badly. And I didn't want to end there because the Bible is a story of death and resurrection. And so I wanted to consider what hope might come out of this story. How could hope come out of this despair? And that's where we have our one story, so which is Reborn, which looks like this. And she is, she's dealing with the aftermath, but really it was an opportunity to explore what would that feel like? So she loses her twin brother, but she also loses her other brother. They lost two boys on that day, not just one. And that would have been just incredibly heartbreaking. But how do you deal with that? How do you move on from that? How does your relationship with God get through that? And I wrote it all as one story. It was meant to be the second half kind of answered the questions that the first half brought up. But at the same time, then it was really, really long. So when I went to publishing, I was advised that it would need to be split into two books. So that's why it naturally split into two books, because you had the two different points of view. It wasn't my comfort zone. I was like, no, but it's only half the story. What if somebody just reads Cain and then they go, it's all just fair? I didn't want that for anyone, but
it's just an encouragement. It's a good marketing. You can buy a book too.
I don't care about the marketing. I just want people to read the story. So I really, really hope that people go on to read Reborn, because that is where the hope is. That's where the gospel is. And yeah, I really hope that people go on to read it. I can't control that, and I have to leave that in God's hands, and that's something I've had to battle with and pray about. And maybe I'll do a box set later and that will solve the problem.
That's right. Well, I think that's also, like, going back to our midpoint question, that would be something new that the first family would have to learn, is how to deal with betrayal and hurt and stuff like that. That's never been talked about before, so that's That's really cool. So your theology degree is an excellent platform in which to write about the Bible. So what led you to getting a degree in theology?
Yeah, so I studied in our A-level exams, which are our age 18 exams. I studied philosophy, religion, politics, sociology, and English. And then I went on to major in politics, did a year and was like, oh, decided I couldn't cope and I was going to switch to theology. So my kind of main interest was the philosophical side. So I wanted to ask those really big questions, but I also had this desire in my heart. So I had read a lot of books and a lot of nonfiction books, and I kind of had this burden to put things in a way that people could grasp these kind of big questions and ask these big questions in a non-complicated kind of way. And I assumed that would be non-fiction. I had no idea until 2.5 years ago that God was going to tell me to write fiction. But I'm so glad that he did, because it is so much more fun. And and I feel so privileged that that I'm able to follow in Jesus's footsteps and be a storyteller, and to actually write stories that have a deeper meaning, like he told the parables with all those deeper meanings. And that's just an amazing privilege, and I'm so grateful to God for that. So yeah, but I try and get those theological things in as much as I can.
Well, I mean, it meets different needs too. Like I would not pick up, I mean, nonfiction doesn't do a whole lot for me. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, the Lord teaches me through fiction. So it is what it is. You're reaching a different group of people for sure. Is there something that the Lord had you learn as you're writing this?
Yeah, I think so. Writing The Wanderer Reborn, a massive part of our story is forgiveness, learning to forgive. And the Lord took me through a journey in writing that book. It was kind of cathartic for me. And he showed me how the process that I'd been over in the last few years before I wrote the book was kind of preparing me for writing that book, which was just amazing. I could never have, expected that. But being able to write down that process of how do we forgive someone, even if like they never repent, right? So our forgiveness isn't dependent on whether they say sorry. It's just God tells us to do it, so we have to do it, and that's really hard. It's really hard. And so her story is really learning to do that and to trust God through that process. And it was a reflection of my own experience, but just writing it down was just amazing. And so he showed me those massive big things that he'd done in my life, everything from songwriting as a way of communicating with him, which is what she does as well. So I shoved that into the and that's when I first started songwriting. But also right down to all of the nitty-gritty details, which we have to learn when we start writing, like where you're meant to put commas, which I didn't have a clue. I mean, I'm so grateful for editors, right?
Yes, thank you, Lord.
They're amazing. Yeah.
Excellent. So what is switching it to a more personal level? What is something people would be surprised to learn about you?
So big questions and stuff I ask in my books. My books are quite serious. They're not at all funny, but I am actually a pretty zany person. Probably people would be surprised to know I could probably be found in my time off dancing around the kitchen with the kids singing ridiculous song lyrics, which aren't always using real words. So yeah, pretty crazy in our house. So that's probably something people wouldn't peg me as, a little bit of a crazy person.
And this is a big question here. Do you return your Tupperware containers promptly? Like if somebody gives you food, leftover food? Do you call them Tupperware in the UK?
I'm really bad. Yeah, we do. We have Tupperware. I don't know how many people still call it that, but yeah, I do. I knew what you meant. I'm really bad. I have such a brain in the middle of the sky in a story somewhere, and I'm so bad. My memory is terrible. So no, I mean, I've even been known to go out specifically to return something and forget to take that thing with me. So I'm awful. So no, not intentionally, but yeah, I'm really bad.
This is your public service announcement to anybody watching. If you have Tupperware to go to your friend, take it now. Watch the rest of the show and then take it. End of it. Excellent. So what's coming up next for you?
So I am actually writing a Wanderer 3, which was
Okay.
unexpected and exciting. That's I'm about 80% through that. So hopefully maybe springtime 24, it might be ready. I've also got a young adult allegorical series, which is getting ready for publication. So that's so exciting. And that's the story of Noah, but kind of transported into a different world. So it's still a Bible story, but it's very different. So
Very cool. Very cool. So where can we find more about your books?
okay, so they're available to order worldwide. You probably will not find them in your bookshops where you are, but you can order them with the ISBNs. You can get in touch with me on Facebook, Instagram. My website is natashawoodcraft.com. So that's nice and easy to remember. And the books are on Amazon. I have actually just recently published a sampler edition. So I'm giving away the first 7 chapters of the book. So I know it can be really hard to spend your money on an author you've never heard of. So the first 7 chapters of the book I've put, it's now on Kobo on Google Play and Apple Books, completely free. So you can download that and try before you buy. So just take a look. So that's the Wander Scorned that's on there. And it looks like that.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Natasha, for being with us here today on Behind the Story.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Remember to connect with Natasha and her books. She's offering an ebook of the first in the series, The Wander Scorned. You don't want to miss that. The link for that giveaway will be in the show notes below.
Awesome. Well, we've got lots of bonuses this week. And also, do we have a midpoint question that we want to remind people of?
Yes, the midpoint question is what would you think some of the hardships that the first family would have gone through, whether that's physical or emotional? Comment below and let us know.
Cool. And I have my giveaway. If you're into Christian rom-coms, it's a bonus novella called Fake Engagement Mistake. It's a bit of fun. You can get it in an audiobook as well for free. Link in the show notes. And Naomi, you have?
I have On Desolate Heights, Balaam's story, and that is for free to sign up for my newsletter if you're in for biblical fiction. Coming up next, we welcome Johanna Vaughn. But until then, thank you for joining us on Behind the Story. Let us run with endurance this race set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. See you next time.